And this should explain what about the Town Hacker project is, that it managed the data link techniques together, just the semantic technology, and give the meaning to the user. What does it really mean, the world's languages, and what you can do with the languages on the client side, and what techniques you're going to use. And if you bring it all together, it's create a pretty mess, which is the stuff in the middle. And our project, what we have is solving the client side, how to handle with this data. On the server side, we bring them to the technology. And for the technology, we're using the Groovy, Scala, and Java languages. This is the agenda for days I want to cover, which is pretty wide and pretty hard to manage. And I've been thinking how to create from this very nice tale to be more understandable to you and even to me. And at the first, you know now what kind of problem we are facing to when we want to bring to data you have seen on the web the meaning. If you search something, you really search for strings, but we are just handle with data like not by using the XML or ADFI, any documentation, and build the concept behind, providing by the server. We are making something like the sphere, which is connected also inside. And every time the user is using our application, is making new connection between the things he is searching and he is finding for. And that's what does it bring to a user is does receive him the valid content he really asked for. Just that means that in one way he is not wasting his time by finding proper solution. I know I'm spending a lot of time like searching for Google for some solution, and I found 10,000 links, which brings me nothing, and it's wasting my time. So that's what we're trying to solve by data link technology and semantic technology we have implemented in project, and I'm gonna briefly touch today. But at the first, I'm just spread the word about the Play framework. What is it? I don't know if anyone knows it, but Play framework is a full stack. It's full stack of technologies, of modules, which is inspired. The development was inspired by the Django and Rails, the light view development frameworks, and to bring it to Java server side and allow the developers to create the development cycle much shorter. It means you can now change your code on the server side and just do simply refresh on the client side. That means on your server, which is Play framework is one of the first framework, maybe the first framework ever. Still, I know he is capable to do so. And why he is capable to do such things like do simply refresh is because it's using the Netty. Netty is a client-server socket framework, which is manage very fast connection between the user and server on the user request. It means it's based on URI, and which is very important to communicate briefly and very specifically to client and server to make it possible. Some technology called RESTful, which I'm going to touch later. But what's also amazing on a Play framework is a Groovy. Groovy is dynamic language. We will also touch later. But it brings you really capability to don't write the methods, to use the methods to fix the null object exceptions very nicely and smartly. And in the case of Play, it allows you to create very nicely client interface and manage it quietly, something like the layer between the server and client. What's also amazing that what the guys from the Playwork have done is a cache. That's the step between the client and the server, which brings the data from the server to client. This is the Play cache. And also Hibernate and object relation mapping. We're going to touch and talk about that. Every communication here is done mostly by JSON. And the JSON is a very nice topic and about the REST. And the REST is here because of a guy named John Roy Fielding. Yeah, that's him. He defines what does REST mean for everyone, for developers, for what kind of techniques you are dealing with when you're trying to apply the really powerful RESTful techniques. What do you need is stateless at the first. But a lot of frameworks doesn't handle this stuff like a stateless. They are mostly the stateful. A stateless means that you don't remember the client data on any next his step in the future, what he has done. That means that in one time, it's very dependent on what you have done and move to the next steps based on the server request. The other stuff is it's a cacheable. That means that this is handled by the play cache, which is really powerful over direct storage of the Java object you can bring from the database as entities. And you can create this play MVC, which is a model view controller. And that's what it means. That's what a play capable to do. And what does simple image mean? That means, maybe I should show you on a code and touch it, because now it's a right moment to see. Oh, okay, but okay, how it's moving to you? Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna try. Oh, not much actually. Oh, maybe I'm wrong side. It's this side? Sorry. Okay, so, oh, that's not visible a lot. Okay, so let's do it in this way. I'm just, what does a controller mean? Because a controller is a Java class. Controller is the extension of implementation in play. Control is a procedural how your server responds to the client. That means there are the static entity, static methods, which are handled by the reflection or interceptor. If you do some, what I want to use, if you do interceptor, what it's doing is responding and correcting all your response coming from the clients. That means, for example, in security case, you can, if you annotate your controller class before, by annotation before, that means that before any request you send to this controller is make security check if this request is done by the specific user. This is interceptor. Reflection is done by public methods, which in a play. And in a simple way, the reflection means you have the list of public methods, and when you do request to a specific controller, okay, just play go only through the list if such method exists, and if it is match here, he replies you back and manage the procedure he has written in the code. This is a controller. Model is mostly what we are using is an entity, is a model stored in a database if it is extend the JPA implementation model. You can use such model as a transfer object between client and server. That means that if you have really big object, define it and store in a database, it's really not necessary to bring to the user on the client side the big bunch of data. You can only bring some specific details and use the transfer object, which is also the model but not stored in a database and provide to the client, which will be much faster. View, and that means view. What does it mean exactly? In Play, it's also, view is controller by procedure done in a controller. Okay, controller controls the view. View can be done by, for example, JSON objects, or XML, or it could be the image row you are asking for, so image could be received. Or view can be done also by a nicely generated web page, right? And this is also when you call the method render and the end of the procedure you have specified in the controller, that was what is received as a user. So that's at this moment I'm going to touch what you can do on the web pages. This is the HTML example. How you can use, if you do remember still, I just mentioned the Play cache. And the Play cache give you the abilities to directly store or render the object you receive from database or you create as a Java object, and you can send it through this cache, through this layer, cache layer, directly to generating your web page. And as you see, I just call it the guest or SFI guest, no, just guest. And you can use the handle, the exception, if the name is null. It's done by Groovy, and directly access the name. And this name, this value is directly displayed somewhere in your web. You place this tag. It's a web tag. You can do also the scripting. This is also the joke here for now you are experienced the Play users. And this is define the Play script. What does it mean, the Play scripting? You can use the full power of Groovy. You can write the methods, you can write the search in, you can write the regular expression, which is very simple in Groovy, much simpler than any other language. And you can put it into the bracket and just create and just print out the result. That you can do in this bracket. And as you can see, I have in this example in the middle there is that I receive from the server side through the cache the Boolean class, Boolean value, if I am the member of the group, of any group, it's true, false, and I receive to the client side, and based on this knowledge, if I'm a member or not, I generate the rest of the website. Okay, you can use the tagging support, which is also amazing, powerful feature. Tags are also kind of classes written by Groovy. You can place the list is a very good example because it's a very common case, like you received a bunch of data from the database, and you need to list through of them, right? And you simply can do in this tag list, and it will list do the first cycle of data that you receive and check them if they are okay or not, and just display on the site when you really want to have it. So this is simple Play View Groovy tags. Okay, now what is really important to understand is how Play handle and dealing with the Hibernate and JPA. I'm pretty sure that all are very experienced developers, and what I'm gonna say is not new for you, that the JPA is only generalization of the Hibernate, which is the Hibernate is one of the user of JPA implementation. That means the JPA brings you the standard as a developer to handle to handle with mapping between the database, object relation mapping, and translation. That means that gives you the possibility how to translate the real Java object to the appropriate database dialect. In our case, it's a is a JPA. If you want to create and use the JPA or any database, you have to correctly configure it, which is another very good advantage of Play framework. You don't have to taking care about configuration a lot. It's procedure. It's stored in an application conf inside a Play framework, and then you have configured all connections to all databases you are using inside your application, and Play run the box. It's not black box, it's pretty sharp box, it's not a black box. But it's directing your request to resources all the time during your cycle of usage. And it's not necessary taking much care about during the development. That means if you annotate the object Java class by the entity, it means it's stored in the JPA, and Hibernate takes care about the appropriate dialect transaction. And if you request, it's done by the transaction manager. You receive all the objects, and object is back translated to you as a developer, and you can use all methods you have specified on this object. That allows you to create a Hibernate query. It means it's not necessary. I will show you later how to create the appropriate methods, but you're still not losing any abilities which you received of your setup. That means you can still use the Hibernate query and JPI query. JPI query is the subset of the JQL. Just don't forget, JQL is more powerful. And what do we have on the next slide? I just have to look because it's the first time. Yeah. That's only, I just wanted to touch and correct some words which are written on the website, because as you will see, it's not working pretty well. Because, for example, on a website there is written something like how much simpler it becomes. That means it's true partly, but it's not true when your knowledge overcome and your needs overcome your Play framework implementations. For example, in us, we have implemented and evaluated geolocation points, which is Postgres is one of the database which is its extension allows you to create very fast geolocation requests on your data. That means they have the structure and indexing in the database which allows you. But in a Play, there was a bug. It's an amazing framework, but there was a bug. We've been forced to write the patch for this bug, how to translate the objects from the JDBC to our Postgres from our Java. I wanted to show you. I hope I will be more successful, but I hope I will be successful enough to show you how it looks like, because in Play on Play documentation there was written something like you can simply specify on if you need this feature. It's partly more. Oh, sorry. Okay. I will do it like this. You can simply specify in this. Oh no, it's not working. Oh yeah, it's working, but okay, it's not working enough to no. Sorry. If you see somewhere here, I will try to bring it back, but Apple is not perfect. I want to say, or I'm not a perfect. Here should be and this pointer, I should have here. It's a call package info. This file, okay. This file. If you need some specific object which you need to overcome to go over the JPA capabilities, you need to go to this object in Play or somewhere, specify how the object is translated from DAO, data access object, from database to your language, to Java language. You go there, just specify it, and it should work. You should be capable to deal with this. But what happened? It's not right, it's not correct, because in Play there was a bug, and even when you did this is the translation. I will explain you, maybe you got it, what does it mean. And this is the points. We have developed some new object we start in a PostgreSQL. This is the point which is the geolocated, have some properties, which is pretty big. It's stored in database, but the point is the geolocation search. But the PJ earth type, that means how the type will be translated to database, how it's going to be stored, and the PJ point class is the class how it should be point translated. This object from database table should be translated to Java to properly be able to create or to have access to all methods you have specified on it. That means that if I go and show the PG point, just I have it here. This is the PG point. I want to believe me, but I don't like. Okay, I'm pretty closer. Yeah. Hey, this is the PG point. I go too closer. You know, this is the implementation of the PG point, which is a pretty big object stored in a database. And it's not so easy to really create, and we just receive the bug in a Play we need to overcome, and we fix it. And it was necessary to go over the hibernate capabilities and go into the roots and write to open the data object access translator. Okay, so now we can, that means the Play is not so helpful sometimes, but it's really cool. In most of cases, on most of needs of application, it's working pretty fast and incredibly good. Also, on a slide, I just show you, I'll run up. Yeah, there is something like magically synchronized. But what does it mean? Yeah, I know it sounds pretty marketing stuff, right? Like if you synchronize something with magic, it's amazing, it's working, like Steve Jobs used it many times. Yeah, guys, it's working. But it's not the case of Play. It means Play is working almost all the stuff, all the time, perfectly. But as I gave you the example with the point, we already follow the Hibernate documentation, how to do this. And we have been facing still to the problem because this implementation wasn't working. That means they have something wrong, and we have to go over that. That means that Play is taking care only mostly about the transactions you have done on any object related to your database systems. It's something like a transaction manager on the up to the layer of entity manager you are using and a connect with a Play and with a Hibernate. So, next slide is how. Yeah, I gave you already example. I forgot that I have these letters to come. Sorry, guys. Next time. I told it 2 letters. So what we're gonna have now is the model implementation that I spread the words around, because the model class and implementation of JPS is much more. Because if you do, yeah, the rest will be for hardcore developers. If you do anything in a model and you just annotate the methods or variables as a public, that means you want to have it accessible from anywhere. It's because Play is using a lot of reflections. That means all the time, all the requests, because of stateless capability they provide you, you want to make so your UI to have really all the time the direct access to the methods you requested. That means that it's using a lot of reflections, that if you annotate and extend for your class the model and create one, you receive getters and setters for free. Now, that means that if you are using the Scala language, which is Play is very nicely capable to do, it's not necessary to specify anything else. You can really nicely dynamically use getters and setters for all your objects you have stored in database and you want to have it. Also, what you receive automatically, Play is generated for this entity long ID as a primary identifying key. This is more important because I have seen many times that some guys are using a string as a primary identifier, which is very nice when you're migrating the database systems, which is very nice over several days, nights, you haven't sleep, how to deal with the problems. But if you decided to create the different ID, you can create your own string ID or generate it and store it. But you extend the generic model and you are really hardcore developers or you are really neat. For example, in that meaning, I have to be honest because we are using some generated numbers for our project. So we are not using the default ability of Play because it could happen sometimes that you need to migrate your database systems. And you can even migrate to different framework. So our code is designed to use our own written number generator to be really always sure, and we are using these numbers as an identifier of the object. We are not requesting, that means we are not requesting mostly to the identifiers provided by the Play framework. What that brings, it's much harder to deal with. It takes more time how to design it. But what you receive is then when you decided to migrate to, for example, NoSQL database or something like this, or in any other database, and even decided to use any other framework, you are not so much taking care of what ID you have to use because they will always change when you migrate. But you have your own generator. That we decided to write our own generator for the numbers. Okay, the other most amazing thing, this is really amazing implementation, which is the find method. You can all the time, you find by ID, you specify, or you use the default ID and find all. That means you can simply write on the object, find all, it brings back from the database systems, and you can list it and do whatever you want with. You can use the simplified query. That means the Place guys invest their time to make finding of any parameters inside the object much easier. You can use, as I said before, JPQL, which is really not so strong as HQL, which is an only subset. But in most cases, you really don't need it to using the Hibernate query language. So JPA or the guys have developed a lot of methods how to search. It will be really reliable for you, and you will be really satisfied with that. Okay, the next is the object save. This is, do you remember still, as I mentioned about the stateless and something like a RESTful techniques. Okay, so play. If you are, let's have an example. I have something like a human, and humans are always a guest, mostly, of the presentation. Well, maybe sometimes comes a dog, but with a human, led by a human. But the framework is designed to be really stateless, to bring the capability to design as much request as is capable your server to cover. And that's because that means that if you have a lot of methods and you send a lot of requests to save your, for example, the human profile or the guest profile. Guest is human. There is a relation. So the guest profile, for example, to change a name, or you send some, and you receive some exception. That means that you did a bug in your name, and not bug like a string. You send the bad data. You send the raw data from the image, and you want to save it as a name. You receive the exception because Play framework here, which is on this example, is object is you bring the object from all form parameters you requested, and you validate this object before it's gonna save. And if you receive the exception, it's refresh. That means that Play will have already cached the objects you working with, and he only just put the same parameters, so nothing changed. But if you want to have the object safe, you have to really strictly say to Play framework, hey guy, save it. Hey Play, save it. Because if you don't do so, nothing is safe. And it also means that if you receive the many requests for the object change, a lot of requests, like millions, the Play is now taking a lot of cares about which object is not safe or not. It's simply like a brute force, just save. And then, but for you, this means that if someone did something bad, so it's not saved, and you can handle with that very nicely. That's the power of framework. Okay, now I just mentioned that we are coming closer to PostgreSQL and to our database implementation and why we are using that. Okay, it's a relation database system. It's an open source. The PostgreSQL provides a lot of extension functionality. One of them I have touched. It provides you join, merge on functionality of the SQL language, which is very nice standard because instead of fact the database dialect is changing over the databases, Oracle has something special. MySQL has something less special or less. And everyone wants to be special, but the dialect is still same. It's like differences between the languages over the countries. I'm pretty sure that you have also a different dialect, but you still understand each other. That's why we choose the PostgreSQL. And because it's the one open source database which provide you the indexing, geolocation indexing search, and it's really fast because other databases provide this as the extension, and it's pretty expensive when you get a charge. That's also limit you because everyone is asking, mostly it's really spelling in many ways, scalability, and everyone wants to have even the mobile application scalable. Okay, I don't know, it's pretty easy to solve it. When you have, it's one thing's pay all the time. When you have very good schema and flow, you will be always successful. That means then instead of fact, the relation database systems gives you the possibility to scale your system vertically. But when you do the base sharding, it's called, it's like it's very simply to image. What's the sharding? Instead of it's a very nice designed schemas. As a concept of broken glasses, that means this one is very good glasses. They have two lenses, right? If I broke one, not that much to see, but I will still be capable to see the world as a unit. But this picture, these images will be divided to separate parts. What does it mean in database is your schema concept have to be capable to be divided into the small parts, that means the broken glasses, and you can do the request only to these specific tables. That means it's really good to invest your time to beginning development, design, the schema design, which we really did, and now it allows us to scaling in a way of horizontally. It's not like in a NoSQL databases, but it's this one. This is the NoSQL. This is us. Okay, because of sharding. But this is a pretty new branch of the science, how to do is in a very complex systems. But we have advantages. We have been counting with this issue since the beginning. That means for us, using the relation databases doesn't mean the big things when we decided to scale horizontally. Vertically, it's very simple. Just buy the bigger machines. Okay, so now I touch that we have two basic database systems, or at this moment, is relational databases, which allows you to create the join merges. But what's the other important point on this is the asset. That means that any request of your data storage will be reliable finished. That for us, okay, if it means that if you change your profile or okay, your bank account, this is a good example. Your bank account, by asset, it's okay that your procedure will be finished. Your money will be on some other one account, on your account. But on NoSQL database systems, this is more funnier. They are not providing asset. That means that consistency of the data are not guarantees if this is really saved. But maybe the bank companies could be surprised, right? Or their customers, that it takes more time to store the bank transfers or money, and it is not really okay. It's not really like for sure if their money will come to their account and money transfer will be proceed. Also, what you are missing if there's NoSQL databases are schemaless, that means that all the big advantages at the start you can put on the big table to the row as much data as you can, and this you decided you still need more rows. Hey, you can design it. Why not? It's one row. It's a very big, unlimited row, quietly. And you can store everything you want. You can change your model, but it's still in rows. That means the NoSQL databases cost you only for writing. It costs you the long time, the much more time. But the procedure of the reading back the data, which is really needed, for example, the Amazon books, which is only providing several books, most requests, and still really nicely and fastly provided to the user, and he can choose the right one and buy it. This costs the money, yeah, for Amazon, and they are earning on money. For them, in that case, its document NoSQL database is very good because they have specific tasks, specific schema, and they could extend their specific schema But this is the really different user case we were been even dealing with when we were searching some data, geolocated data or semantically stored data, but by the meaning. So what we have now. But what my friend of mine sent me yesterday, very nice animated tale between the difference of the MySQL and compared to versus NoSQL, that the guy who was pro NoSQL just say scalability all the time. Just the guy who just built for SQL databases just say, hey, why? It's not so scalable. We can do sharding. But this guy replied, oh, it's a scalability. Yeah, it is. But if you don't know nothing about how to deal with the database schema, you can do the wrong decision. But wrong decision will be scalable. Yeah, that's true, always. But now, as you can see, it's not readable, actually, but they are the NoSQL databases. But all these databases are based on the object they are stored in the row. It could be documents, some file, some types you define it. But still, the operation of the writing data to the database costs you much, but the reading data is much faster than the relation database. But you are missing the join, merge, you are missing the schemas, because it's a schemaless, you are missing a lot. Okay, and plain framework, what is the other important part is security. So maybe someone could ask, I have just divided to the main row, main points, which is the session, session is a hash of the values, of the key values, and if you have all stuff safe, so it's okay, but it's not encrypted, which could be a really mess, but session belongs to the server, so you cannot change it. This is a cross-scripting. It's very, very interesting sometimes when you have designed the web which is not like okay with this dealing, and Play automatically provides the string skipping. SQL injection. This is you can, as I show you, you can use defined methods on the object. The object extend the model on the models. Find methods provided by Play framework. It's okay. It's still okay because it's in a basis. It's doing this. It's create a query and put the parameters here. And if it is visible, the second example is you can create a query by a string. You can put the value you receive from the as a server response, as a client request, in the client request, you can put and merge with other string, and from this string, the result you can create a response. But this is not really clever to do so, because then the possible attacker can send the big string, and you can send him back much more data you wanted. So it's better. The Play recommends, and everyone recommends, to creating query, just getting via methods the variables. That means you create a query and call the methods, just put the variable inside, and you can avoid the SQL injections, which is not really nice when you've been dealing with and you don't know where it is, from where it is going, like from your code. Cross-site requests. That means that, for example, you receive the script, it's going to be storing and changing accounts, and then you can break down your servers, and you can be still sending a post and get request. Okay, to do so, you can use the authenticity token. The authenticity token on Playwork is stored in the session, which is generated number, and when you call the check authenticity on the web, it's in your controller, which I want to then see, which I want to show you. It will take a time again, but sorry, I have to find my mouse. I have it on the wrong side, sorry. That means, for example, when you save the profile, sorry, sure. Okay, for example, I get this. And this token is automatically generated if I just trust. This is the form requested to send as a request and validate by the server. But to this form is automatically by the tag generated the request token, and on the controller side, it's only simple just shit. Pardon, sorry. On a controller side, it's only to check authenticity token. I have to find it. Okay, on a controller side, you do only this then. Okay, just call this function, which is stored in a Playwork. But you can also receive from the session as a session get, and you can get the number to check if it is really same user as requested before. That's the security, how to avoid to cross request in a Play framework. That means that these guys from Play are really thinking about the security and how to work with, but it doesn't mean that they fix all problems for you, that you have to be really careful what you are doing with your JavaScript and what kind of information you are sending to server. But it's very nice that it's helpful. Okay, now I have really nicely ready the authentication. What does it mean? I hope you know what does it mean the OAuth 2 protocol. It's a pretty simple, and the funniest thing is the Google is handling with this authentication method in a very different way, like than to Facebook. It's simple. From the state 1, we are not to authenticate user, to state 2, where you receive all the capabilities of the web you're requesting. And the Google OAuth method is a two-part. Like you first asking that for the token, for something like a token. Then you receive the token, and after you receive the token, you can be redirected to the service, information service about you as a user, and then you receive. That means that Google requests OAuth have 2 stages. Compared to Facebook, which they provide in the Graph API, which is much simple, because you set up your application inside, and then only you set up the redirect URI, and then you receive the request token, and you can do anything you want with your user account. I don't know which one you think is better, but I prefer the Google way. But the Google way has really interesting question, how to do this, because the Play is stateless, how to do this authentication real. That means that you need to step 2, okay, sorry, you need to check whether you are now already logged in, then to send the request for the token, but I'm not sure if it's going to be visible right now. Login server. Here it is. Okay. This is the Google way. Now you're requesting for the token. You have to follow their restriction they have mostly documented on the web. Mostly I'm saying that it's not so simple to create the authentication to any of their services they're providing. And then you receive the token, and then you have to call the information servers. That means the pass server. This is the other method. I will show you here. This is the other method you call when you receive the information. And then you can continue in, for example, in this case, in registration with all information you ask for Google, and you got to receive if you are success. In a Facebook case, it's when you see this, it's much simpler and easier. The code is really like this is it. This is the whole Facebook authentication. Okay, what I show you before, what was the Google? Just two methods, calling over the classes and calling for information. This is the Facebook. It's a much simpler, right, for developers. You don't, and even what you see, you don't have to send the appropriate request model. It's just okay. But it's working. The Facebook has many fans and everybody following everyone, and it's okay. But this is the Facebook way of auto understanding. It's a graph ID. I don't know, for my opinion, just Google brings more secure, keep eyes more on security. Okay. So now, we are on the last slide, one of the last slides. No, the last one. That's what I have ready for you. I wanted to show you much more, but I'm not sure if I have a time. I have already done the JSON request and handling with the stateless server. Because as I said, the Play framework is stateless. That means that server really not caring in which phase of your stage you are, but you have to care if you want to write the mobile application for them. And I just prepare just other code, which is I hope I will bring it to you because it's in other IntelliJ IDEA, and I don't know where is it. This, and I don't even know where I have my. Sorry. I haven't seen my. Do you have seen something like Android? Okay, no. That means I have to run it up. Okay, I will run up because what I have implemented and when we're dealing with the stateless framework, you need to have a same access to the sessions, to the data stored when you are authenticated. That on a mobile platform it means because, for example, the Android is using the Apache implementation of the HTTP client. So you need to have this access of this HTTP client to all your information, to authentication, for example. That means that if you create a new request, and you create in that request the new HTTP client, you missed all data, you are not authenticated. That brings some difficulties when we are dealing with the mobile technology, which is very simple to overcome. As you know, for example, the Android provide you services, activities, broadcasting messages. And if you just create the services which is running behind the Android application, you can authenticate the services, you don't miss the session you have started on your server, and you can posting the request and getting back for the results over the actions you have started. That means if you are changing the windows. That's as I hope I will show you here. Okay, this is the bulb. This is it. It's authentication. Hey, and the bulb is authenticated. And now I will try to do the other call. It's the other application. I will try to match the topic, because now it shows you what's the capability. Oh, login. Oh, okay. Well, something is wrong. I just pressing the logout. Okay, sorry. You didn't remind me. I have glasses, but I don't have seen anything. I have glasses broken. So, okay, what you have seen here, you receive from our server the response is a JSON, but this is the semantically and also geographically generated data. And it was pretty fast from the request. It's about the topics, it's about the discussion topics. It's a really simple application. Don't worry, the application in the real will list. But if you take on the listing, it's pretty hard to do so fast the merge and join. And Postgres is the best solution we receive. You can do also some simpler requests, but you are still dealing with a stateless framework. You are still handling the same session on the server, and you are still on it. And you are requesting. That was my Android show. It looks something like this. It's only I'm using for transfer. I'm using this method because I'm parsing in JSON, and I'm parsing this response to direct the objects. And this is, for example, here. Yeah, here it is. And what you receive, this is the request from Plain Framework you receive. And you can put this object to the list you have seen and scroll it down and do whatever you want with. But this is only the example. The list view is one other activity. List activity is called on a Framework. These were really basics. I hadn't time to do much more, and this will be my my last slide. I really want to thank you for listening me, and I really do apologize for this because the Apple. You see, hey, rest in peace, Steve, but you say just works. No. No, thank you. I really appreciate what I said, and it would be useful. Thanks.
Thank you very much.